Thank you for checking out this week's episode of the J-Cut podcast, where I sit down and talk with creative people about their careers, their passions, and their lives. On today's episode, I'm sitting down with a very frequent collaborator and good friend of mine, Prionnsias, or Pronch Murphy. He is a self-employed producer, drone operator, sound recordist, first assistant director. He's kind of a jack of all trades. Now, I'm going to take this moment really quickly to remind you that if you haven't yet, it would be really appreciated if you subscribe to the channel, gave this video a little thumbs up. It really helps the YouTube algorithm boost this and get it seen by more people. Pronch was actually my first ever boss in the media business or film business. I worked for him at a small production studio, but now we're both independent, freelance filmmakers who collaborate and work together on lots of projects, both creative side projects and client-driven commercial and corporate projects. Pronch's story is pretty interesting because he started as an employed manager at a production studio before losing his job very suddenly. And we get a little bit into that about what it was like going from having that guaranteed sort of safe employment to now having to start your own business and become freelance. What were the challenges with that? But ultimately, he was able to bounce back, make his business profitable, and keep income coming. And he's now happier for it, despite this sort of wrench that was thrown into his and his wife's plans. So we get into that sort of debacle, what it's like starting a family as a self-employed filmmaker and having children. And we really get into the specifics of running a business when it comes to budgeting, rates, what kind of money can be thrown around in a project, and how do you get your slice of that. So if you're interested in becoming a self-employed entrepreneur or filmmaker or just starting a business, this is a really important, possibly the most important podcast I've done so far. So without any further ado, we'll just get into it. This is the J-Cut podcast with Pronch Murphy. Welcome to my dining room, Pronch.
This is beautiful.
How do you want to be addressed in this? Because you have a couple different brands here.
I do.
You're Pronch, you're Pronchias, you're James.
Yeah. So we'll go with like our relationship. This is your venue. This is your show. So I say we should go with how you refer to me.
Today you're Pronch.
I'm Pronch. I will go by Pronch.
Legally Pronchias.
Yes.
Spelled Prionnsias.
Prionnsias. It's not worth your time. Just go Pronch.
And your wife calls you James.
She does. Yes, so. We met when we were in high school, and in high school I went by James or Seamus. Actually, there was multiple brands in high school.
You're very Irish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got to college that I started going by my first name.
You rebranded.
That's right. And I went to a college that had recently rebranded as well. They learned from me.
Yeah,
I did it first.
Yeah. So welcome to my dining room. You've been here.
I have.
Many times.
I've shot one or two things in this dining room. I've
one or two. It definitely has. It's got to be more.
I was being modest.
Yeah,
I've shot something.
We've shot too many things in this dining room.
Yeah. I think you've claimed that we've overshot this space.
100%. That's why I hate that I do the podcast here.
Yes,
but I don't have that many options.
What you got? But no, it's a great space, and this is a pretty sweet setup. I like it.
I'm pretty pleased with it. Thanks for lending me your camera every time.
You're very welcome.
So you and I have been working together for a long time.
We have.
And we have very similar jobs now in that we're self-employed producers doing corporate commercial work. And then we have other ways of generating revenue because you do sound work on site and drone work and etc. I direct stuff and I edit. Yep. And you edit too when
I have to.
Yeah.
When I have to. I don't like editing.
When the budget is limited.
Yes.
But I chose to do this, and you kind of ended up doing this.
That's right. Yes.
Not at your own volition at the time.
Yes. I'm loving it now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about that first, because we won't get too into the details, but basically you lost your job.
Yes. So I was working for a company for 6 years, running a department, and
you were my first boss.
Yes, actually, you worked for me. And I loved what I did. Absolutely loved it. I got to work with young people who wanted to be in the industry that I was in, and I got to kind of mentor them and teach them client relationship stuff. Basically, running a business, but I was inside a larger business. And I had the protections of a larger business in the sense of like all the insurance and all the billing and stuff was handled by higher up people. Yeah. And I just got to focus on making content and teaching young people how to make content and how to talk to clients and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. Absolutely loved it. And then 2 and a bit years ago, 2016, some stuff happened.
Almost 3 years ago.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It'll be 3 years ago in September.
Yeah, it was September 2016.
Yeah.
That we had an unfortunate incident with a client who didn't pay their bill, and there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
But because of that, things unfolded in such a way that I ended up being let go.
Yeah. Because you were a manager, so you didn't have any sort of like union protections or anything.
That's right.
And like I was involved in that project.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, client walked on a big bill.
Huge
and got their lawyers involved, and Pronch took the brunt of
Yep.
that. And then then you were.
So for 8 months, I was unemployed,
Yeah.
receiving EI, which, thank goodness I had that protection and ability to kind of find for 8 months. And I applied for some jobs. I applied to agencies in downtown Toronto. I applied to local businesses that were looking to have an internal media person. I actually ended up basically accepting a job with one that
I remember that.
Yeah. I went in for the interview, and they wanted an internal person to kind of help make training videos for their software, and it was going to be mostly screen capture, editing, and a little bit of camera work, but not much. And I didn't expect to be given a job offer right there on the spot, and they offered me, they said, okay, so we're going to start you off at this rate. And okay, here we go. Handshake, see, bye-bye. And I left kind of like stunned that had happened, and I had agreed to it, but I hadn't thought through what the rate was and everything. And after that was on a Friday. And then over the course of the weekend, I was thinking about it, thinking I make that much money working every couple of days doing freelance stuff.
Yep.
So why would I take a full-time job that's going to give me no freedom at all? So I reached out, tried to negotiate a higher rate, and they were super mad at me for accepting a job and then trying to negotiate after the fact. And I said, look, I'm sorry. And after that, I just kind of stuck with going freelance, and love it. It's running my own business, making my own hours, doing my own thing. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That's why I do it.
Yeah. It's so much fun. And I mean, there's the fear sometimes of where's your next paycheck going to come from. That's definitely something that's scary, not knowing how much money you're going to have next month.
Yep.
I tried when I first kind of decided, I'm doing this. For 3 months, I didn't take any pay out of my company. I left all the money in my company, and my wife and I, we talked about it. We made a plan, and I let the amount of money that I had been earning build up in the account. And then after 3 months, I had about 10 grand set aside of money that I had earned. And then I started paying myself a little bit of money every 2 weeks. So I had a regular paycheck, because that's what we used to have when I worked at the company before. And it felt better for our finances to have that regular paycheck. And even though I had earned the money and it was all there and I could have taken it, just having that regularity was very, very helpful.
Going into your personal accounts to cover.
And I'm still doing that today. 2 years later, that's still what I'm doing. And it just makes life so much easier when you do it that way.
So you ended up becoming more freelance. The story you just told me reminds me of, because you've watched most of Parks and Rec.
Most of it, yeah, all but the last season.
When Adam Scott keeps getting hired by the accounting firm and then has to quit like every single time, like a day later. It's just like, I'm sorry, guys.
And they're just so excited to maybe have him, just maybe.
Yeah. Like they get amped every time he comes in. They hire him on the spot. They're like, he's got their shitty jokes that they seem to love.
Yes.
But okay, so then because you're also more of a grown-up than I am in that you're married, although that's changing for me very soon.
Next, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
At the time of filming,
recording,
yes. I am still not married.
Yes.
And you have a child now.
Yes.
So he's 11 months.
11
next
months
week.
on Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
This Thursday, he will be 11 months old.
That's because that's a big freak out for a lot of people.
Is that...
Well, yeah, I know. But I mean, the fact that you're self-employed, a lot of people seem to have this mentality that if they have kids, they need to like have a job that has steady income. But as we've sort of seen, a job with steady income does not guarantee anything anymore.
Yeah. In this day and age. Yeah.
So did that cross your mind at all? Or were you just like, nope, I'm sticking to what I'm doing?
So
we've never really talked about that. So.
Yeah, my wife and I, we were talking long term when we were 16 years old.
Yeah.
When
you've been married for a long time.
Yeah. So we started dating at like 15, 16. And about 8 months into our relationship, we were talking about like, okay, what would our timeline be if we were to get married, if we were to this, if we were to that. And we always talked about having kids around age 30. Health, biological health reasons, it's a good idea. And also just kind of life, if we did anything later than that, it wouldn't. So regardless of what else was going on in employment and career wise, that was always kind of something on the horizon.
Yeah.
We were always kind of looking towards that. We also kind of flip-flopped a little bit about like, do we have kids? Do we not have kids? Because we really liked it just being us. Yeah. It was really great.
Dinks, double income, no kids.
Yeah. It's so good. So good. But we knew that we'd regret it if we didn't have kids. Like in our 50s and 60s, we'd look back and be like, oh, we should have done that. So yeah, that was always something on the horizon. And the timeline of me losing my job and starting my own business was really, really great for that timeline because it gave me almost 2 years to get set up. If it had happened right at like when I was 29 or right when I was 30 and we were like trying to get pregnant at the time, that would have been terrifying. That would have been, we probably would have delayed the plans. Yeah. We wouldn't. That's so hard to think about. I hadn't put my brain on that. Like, what if it had happened right now?
Yeah.
We probably would have delayed the plan, and Henry, my son, probably would not have been born yet. Yeah, that's a weird one to think about. I've kind of diverted my brain there. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's why I like doing this. I like throwing the curveballs a little bit. But you're working from home, and you have now Sarah's still on mat leave.
That's right.
Till the end of the summer? Or?
No, till mid-August. So
okay.
She's on mat leave till mid-August, and the last year has been absolutely amazing. Again, so running my own business, I get to make my own schedule, do my own things, and I work from home. I don't make enough money that I can rent an office space. Yeah. So my office is one of the upstairs bedrooms.
Yep.
And
represent.
Woo. And it's been amazing to. I do the morning routine. We get up, I make breakfast, we eat, we hang out in Henry's little play area for the first, 30, 45 minutes of the day. And then around 8:30, something like that, I go upstairs and I work away until, I'm done whatever I'm working on. Then I come down and I have lunch with them. And if there's something really exciting, Sarah will call me down. Or if Henry's being really fussy, I can hear him and I can go down and give Sarah a hand with whatever's going on. And that's been the most rewarding, most amazing part of being self-employed and being somebody who works from home. If I had still been working where I was, I wouldn't have that freedom. Yeah. And I wouldn't know that this is a freedom that exists and was a possibility to me. Wouldn't have dawned on me. Yeah. I loved what I did. I was making more money than I am now. But the freedom that has been afforded to me by running my own business and doing my own thing is amazing. Yeah. It's so amazing. And I wouldn't trade it at all. I'm so grateful that what happened did happen.
Yeah. See, I'd take a pay cut for freedom too. Yeah. Because you're bound to a desk or an office space for 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the benefit of you worked next door to your house pretty much. You walked to work. So
my wife and I were very smart and got ourselves walking distance living and commuting. That's just one thing. If anybody takes anything away from this, commuting is not worth it. No. Deciding to live near your work and having a short travel to work. My wife still has a walking distance to work. If you can get that, it's worth more rent. It's worth more of a mortgage. It's because your life is not in commuting, not in travel. And it's so much more valuable to you to be with your family, or even if you're not with somebody, if it's just you, having the time to yourself that isn't like I'm on the train. Like how people say like, I'm listening to a podcast or I'm reading because I'm on the train. I'm using that time.
You're forced to use that time.
You have to use that time. Deciding to take that time for yourself is so much more valuable. Yeah.
Because when we were working on said project that ultimately got you fired, I was also working a lot downtown. And I talked to Sydney a bit about this because she also worked on that project. Yeah. And I was like commuting an hour plus each way downtown.
Every day.
Like pretty much Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 on that contract. And then working on that project in the evenings, and we had very long shoot days when it was finally in production. And I was like physically getting sick.
Yeah.
Like just because I was like overworked and stressed and had too many working on other client projects too at the same time. Like, and it was the commute that was like killing me because it's just like, I start at 9. I have to be up at 5:30, like to hop on the train and sit on the train like a zombie for an hour and change. So it's brutal. I would absolutely take like the free, like I hate when I have to drive to a shoot somewhere.
Yeah, if you could just get up and do your own thing out of your own house. I mean, now you're an amazing editor, and your primary client loves hiring you as an editor. You would rather not, and you do, but you would rather not be doing that. You're an amazing editor. You're really, really great, but that's not what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like.
So you hate driving to a shoot, but what you actually want to do is be on the shoot.
Yeah. And the shoot just always be within walking distance of my house.
If you're smart enough.
There's been a couple Burlington shoots we've gotten,
which has been great. Bars down the street, things like that. Yeah,
like randomly from my client in downtown Toronto throws work at Burlington.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen much. Most of the work that we have to do is in Toronto
or travel
and travel stuff. Yeah. Let's go on the travel.
Yeah, because you and I have traveled quite a bit.
Good stuff, fun stuff.
We've done like we did. The first one we did was Prince Edward Island, and
that was a whole project. It was actually a cross Canada project that started in Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, and then we flew to BC like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And that was with Dion Phaneuf and Alicia Cuthbert out at their house, which was very funny when we got there because rightfully so. It was just sort of a lifestyle piece, and they didn't really want to show off their house, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned to Dion that you had a drone, like as we were wrapping up to leave.
Not even that. As they were pushing us out
they wanted us to go. Like
the 3 hours had been up. We had 3 hours with them, and it was like, get out of here, please. Yeah. I said, well, before we
politely,
go,
they were very polite about it, but they wanted us to go, and that's fair.
But before we go, like I haven't got any drone shots. Would it be possible to get some drone shots? And Dion goes, you have a drone?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have a drone?
Yeah.
And we were there for another hour.
You
guys were hanging out with Alicia,
and Dion's like glued to your shoulder, being like he was like a kid in a candy store. Yeah. Like he was so excited.
And I don't have a little tiny drone. I've got a professional, large Inspire drone. Yeah. And there was one point where we were flying, and he was glued to my shoulder. Her parents live next door.
Yeah.
So he was looking at my screen, going, "Okay, can you go over there? All right, now a little lower. Okay, pan a little bit to the left, a little bit left. Okay, take that picture. So I took a picture, and he goes, Alicia, look at the picture I just took of your parents' place.
Yeah, they were absolute sweethearts while we were like hanging out with them though, and like he was so amped on that drone. Like that was pretty funny. And then,
but also like slight back.
Yeah.
You and I, we don't sports ball much.
No, not much sports ball.
So that's kind of one of our flaws. But the guy, our DOP, our camera guy, he's a huge sports fan. Like, a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Really? There's crazier sports fans than Ramit.
True, that's true. But he enjoys all sports.
Yeah.
Basketball, hockey, baseball, doesn't matter. He's into it, especially all the Toronto teams.
Yeah.
Big. So he's excited to be there meeting Dion Phaneuf.
Yeah.
You and I couldn't care less about Dion Phaneuf.
I was stoked on Alicia Cuthbert.
Alicia Cuthbert, though. Oh my gosh.
She was like
high school sweetheart.
Exactly. The girl next door. I was like 14
Popular
when that
Mechanics
came out.
for Kids.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
So when and we have to play it cool. When you're going and you're meeting those people, you have to be like, it's no big deal at all.
You have to you have to act like how I act around the athletes, where it's like, you're just a person. You're the subject. And then so we did that piece. Then we flew out to BC to Kelowna, where we did with the Luke and Braden Shen shot their them wake surfing.
That was fun.
Which was pretty wild. Yeah, it was so scrambled, because we have so little time.
Yeah, a total of 3 hours, and you have pre-phone calls with them.
Yeah, but that only does so much.
And actually, not only does it only do so much, usually everything's thrown out the door as soon as you get there.
We had a plan to go biking with them too, and we scrapped it just because we were running out of time.
Yeah. And I mean, that was so Kelowna. If anybody who's listening, you imagine it's beautiful. This beautiful Okanagan River, and all that stuff. It's just the vista is just absolutely beautiful. But it was right in the middle of fire season.
Yep.
And we could not see across the Okanagan River, which usually that's a beautiful vista. could not see across the river.
I know. We like, I think we stepped out of the plane and like in the airport, I could smell the smoke.
Yeah,
like
you could breathe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we like shoot this piece with them, same sort of thing, like lifestyle, just day in the life of them hanging out in BC. We went wake surfing, even though they don't really do that daily. I think that was the first time they'd done it that summer, they said.
But still, it showed it off. It was cool.
It was the day in the life, whatever. But that was like a mad scramble because like we got back to their property on their boat and we did the wake surfing thing in maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and you had to just hop off the boat and set up the drone and go.
Now, slight funny with this one. I don't know if you remember.
I remember.
Oh, yeah. Because I almost got in trouble for this one. I set up the drone. Again, we were so rock, go. I set up the drone. I took off. You guys took off in the boat and I'm just chasing after you. And I get out to where you are. I go to hit record and there's no SD card in the drone. And there's no internal memory in this particular one. So I fly it back full speed, land it, pop a card and take off, go. And you guys have been wake surfing the entire time that I was flying back and so I only got the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was all I needed.
And that's all you need. And we got great footage. It was beautiful. It was fantastic.
We got Luke bailing, which was the fun part.
But I remember... it was only about 3 minutes that I got of you guys. And then I was just hovering there and waiting because we didn't have intercom. We didn't have any communication. I could see you. I could see my drone, but that was it. Yeah. So I'm hovering over this boat that's doing nothing. And I'm going around waiting for something to happen, waiting for them to put the next person in the water. Nothing. That
was already the second person.
Yeah, right. That's why I missed the first person. And so then eventually the battery's starting to load.
I think you did catch a little bit of Braden, if I recall correctly. I'm pretty sure like you got out there just as he was kind of wrapping up. Because I remember getting a shot or two of him. Yeah. But that was like, and it was funny because usually it's like gorgeous, but the smoke just made it an abyss. Like it was just like it was like they were just surfing through purgatory. Like just this white there was soft
no
wall,
background at all.
Nothing.
And color correction on that was not easy.
No, it was not.
Because you were like the smoke, you think of it as white, but actually in color correction there's a bit of a blue tinge
blue
to it. And it really makes color correcting it really rough because we don't shoot in a ready to broadcast format. We shoot in a log which needs to be color corrected. So that was a little bit tough for you.
Again, mad scramble. But it ended up being super cool because we had the drone going. We had them holding like a floaty GoPro stick. We had a GoPro on the back of the boat, and then we had Ramit actually shooting from the boat as well, which means in all your drone stuff, the camera team is perfectly visible, but whatever.
quick drone shots. No one knows.
But that was a cool like experience because there was a point where I'm sitting on the boat and I'm being like, I'm paid to be here right now. This is absurd.
And that was our first travel. Obviously we had done PEI first, but that project was our first travel project.
Yeah, that we got for that client,
and that was pretty cool. That was really really cool. And we were really hoping that exact same project would come back again next year.
It was supposed to, and then it didn't. I think they've still been pushing to do it similar again, like
because it's so good, and we were amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Really were
100%.
Did you hear how good it sounded too?
It sounded great.
Sounded amazing.
You also did sound and drone work. So
just what a weird comparison of skills.
But you can't really do one at the same time as the other. So
exactly,
it makes sense.
I mean, it was one of the most amazing things that I kind of fit into a bit of a groove that nobody expected it existed. Because when you first proposed that I be sent to PEI and I go into Kelowna with you, your bosses said, "Well, no, we'll just hire a local audio guy. There's no point in bringing hire a Toronto audio person to go to PEI. That's a waste of money." Yeah. But then you said, "Well, my audio guy's also my drone pilot. Yeah. And he's got all his certificates. He's got all of his insurance. He's good to go. And he'll give me a really good rate on drone if we hire him for audio and drone." I went, "Oh, yeah, all right. Well, then
that works."
And so
I know, and that's why I've been trying to push more drone stuff.
I haven't been hired to do drone stuff in 6 months. Yeah. It's crazy. It's really, really strange. The new regulations and everything have all changed.
And I think that's going to change a bit though, because with these new regulations and the laws changing and everything, any company that wants to cover their ass a little bit is going to go after certified drone pilots.
Yes.
Which means that the rates for drone operating will probably go up, if anything.
You think so?
At the very least stagnant. I don't see them going down. That's what I think would have happened. Because it's like, you could hire
it was the Wild West
your nephew with a Mavic Air for pennies, or you could hire a pro like you or Dan Batchelor out in BC or something with like Inspire and like high-end certificates and everything. Now, if I was going to hire a drone op, there's no way I wouldn't hire somebody who's licensed and doesn't have insurance.
Yeah. So now, but see, where I think that it's going to get a little bit cheaper is the basic exam and the basic certificate, which is not enough to do what we do. But people are going to assume that it is.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got a license. Oh, you're good to go. Do you have insurance? And I got $100,000 worth of insurance.
Which is also not enough.
Yeah. But people are going to assume it's sufficient. And therefore, I feel like, maybe broadcasters and major clients, they're not going to hire those people. But your smaller things, your real estate agents, your things like that, which again, what they're doing is not covered in the basic operations, but they're going to assume that it is. And
however, at the same time, like there's like in Mississauga, huge chunk of Mississauga is restricted airspace with the basic license. Like because that's what I had a family friend who's a real estate agent asked me about doing drone stuff out there. And I was like, I can't at this point legally.
Next month, maybe.
Yeah. We still got to do our actual flight reviews. But I was like, at this point, but even then, if I wanted to, I'd still have to get in touch with the
air traffic control
and everything. Like it would have, it's not like just pop up and fly in those spaces. And if you do, you're breaking some pretty hefty laws.
It's one of those things that it's not enforced.
Yeah,
that's the problem. There was the guy who shot over the Raptors parade, and he's not getting fined. He's not being arrested. He's not anything. And the drone community is pretty pissed off about it. But it's
they were some cool shots.
It was beautiful. And maybe that's why is because they're like, wow, we need this footage.
Yeah. To be fair as well. With that whole Raptors parade, that also just that night was the Wild West. There was a lot of other illegal wild shit happening that night because that was
I don't know why anybody would ever subject themselves to being in a crowd like that.
Oh, I know.
Why would you decide to go? Like now, I know people who were being paid to be there.
Yeah,
because they were working. They were camera operators.
Devin was doing it.
Was it Josh
Laszlo?
Yeah, wasn't he there?
Oh, he might have been. Yeah, because he works for MLSE.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Josh was there. So I know a couple of people who were being paid to be there, and that. Totally different. Yeah. If you're paying me, I'll go where you want me to go.
Exactly.
But like just wanting to be an attendant of the parade and like that, there was too many people in such a small space.
There was like 2 million people like mashed into the streets of Toronto.
Insane. And the amount of time it would have taken to get into the city and out of the city on that day. No.
Yeah, that was whack.
Yeah.
Like we don't win championships
that's
pretty much
true.
ever. So
that's true.
It was a little like it was the same reason why I watched the game. I've never watched basketball.
I don't
ever.
like basketball.
No,
I don't like it. Intentional fouling, pisses me off. It's like it's just man. We're not gonna. This is not a sports podcast. We're not talking about sports.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a big part of Toronto history this summer.
It was,
but like we've worked with. We haven't done much with the Raptors
no.
Like I've done some post-production stuff.
Mostly
for them,
what we get hired for, almost all what we get hired is hockey.
Yeah.
Which
because Rogers has all the NHL like licensing and rights.
But don't they also have baseball?
Yes, yeah. Rogers owns the
Dome.
The Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Like they literally own the team.
Yeah. So like why aren't we getting hired for that?
I think because their season goes so long, their off season is winter. Like they play hundreds of games. Like an NHL team plays 85 games a season, I think. Baseball is like over 160. Like they play like every day, like 6 days a week.
Yeah, it's back to back to back.
Yeah. So it's tougher, I think, to get those players to actually do other sort of like cross-branded content, especially with the stuff that we do, where it's like go out somewhere and shoot with them for the day. Like it's way tougher to schedule that with baseball players. I think their schedules are whack. True. They also get paid a lot more than NHL players. So
true.
So we've done those things. We've also worked on short films and creative content,
some narrative stuff.
We've tried to make feature films.
We have been denied.
Yeah,
and denied and denied. You've been denied.
Yeah, I know. I've been rejected a lot.
I'm like that. So
you're rejected by proxy.
Producers in the Canadian film and television industry, in the budget range that we are, producers can't apply for stuff.
Yeah,
directors, the creative, they are the ones that get to apply for things.
In Canada.
Yeah. So I have not been denied for things, but I've helped you put together applications and things like that, and I'm a part of the project and it's making it happen. And man, the last one we threw together was so good. We were so proud of ourselves. we weren't certain that we had it. And I mean, obviously the way
I was the pessimist.
Yes.
Remember, I was the
one
saying,
were all like, we're not going to get it. We're not going to get it. So if we didn't get it, you weren't disappointed. But still, what we had done was so good. Yeah. And our application was really amazing.
Sonia was being the more optimist, my co-writer. You were, I don't remember.
I was in between.
You were
I was
50-50.
really impressed with what we created.
Yeah. Bless your soul.
Thanks. I was really impressed with what we had created. So I thought that we had a pretty good chance. But yeah, when the form letter came in saying, more or less, it was kind of like, I guess that happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are so many people trying to create content in this world, and so many people trying to get funded to create content. So it's not shocking. It's not shocking at all. And I mean, our application and what we created, like our pitch video and all that stuff was amazing. But what we had pitched was not anything new.
It wasn't
anything
very Canadian. And I think that was one of the big things.
See, what I was thinking is that it wasn't breaking any barriers. It wasn't opening up any new discussions.
Yeah.
It was a really funny script, and it was a funny way of putting together a story, but it was still just a comedy.
Yeah.
And Canadian, they want to have new stories and different ways of telling them and things. So,
well, it's funny because we went into that trying to write something that was commercially viable and like could be seen in wide theaters if you had like the right cast and the director and whatnot, like the kind of film that would get played in Cineplex. So there was no excessive Canadianism. There was no political ideologies, and like there wasn't a huge push on like race necessarily, and not like just because I just wanted to write a funny story. Like the plan was for like a diverse cast and whatnot, because that's just how the world is. But not drawing attention to that or
just these are the characters. This is the world we live in.
And where in Canadian cinema that seems to be a big priority is like these like cultural identity stories and LGBT stories and stuff, and they absolutely should be told. I just didn't do that. Like,
well, also you don't have that.
I'm also not LGBT, and I'm
not culturally diverse.
Yeah, I know. I'm very very white, and so it's not really like a story I can feel I can legitimately tell. I could.
Well, and you shouldn't be telling it.
No,
it's not your story to tell.
Exactly.
And the type of story you were throwing together is very much your humor.
Yeah,
and it's very much your style.
Morbid, dark.
So like what you were trying to do was authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
And what Canadian funding is trying to do right now is authentic to people who haven't had their stories told.
Yeah.
Which is a very good thing to do, 100%. There's a director that I did a produce for that I produced with back in 2016. I produced her short. And she's working towards a feature now. And it was, she herself is from a very international family. And she was telling a very international story that involved LGBTQ issues. And we got broadcast, Bravo Fact funding for that one. And
which
now
is no longer a thing.
Unfortunately.
Rip.
I think I got it in like the last year.
Yeah.
It was.
I think it was like, there might've been one further round of funding that they did.
Yeah.
But that was for Shazad, right?
That's right. Yeah. And now she's working on a feature version of that, and she's working on other stuff because she's brilliant. So
she is.
That makes sense.
She's definitely a creative person.
Yeah.
Probably more so than I am, I would argue.
More than me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You're not creative at all.
You're a numbers person, man.
Yes, I am.
You're just producing.
Yep. Well, and that's why I do location audio.
Yeah.
Is because you can't do location audio in a creative way.
Yeah.
It's either right or wrong. And I'm very good at right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'm very, very
that
good
I
at
can
that.
figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. Excel spreadsheets are either right or wrong.
Yeah.
Location. And I mean, post audio, whole other ball game. We work with some really brilliant post audio designers.
Yeah.
Taylor Brocklesby, Christy McIntyre, several others.
Yeah. Kelly.
So yeah, post work is very creative.
Yeah.
You're telling a story with the audio, but location audio, you need to capture correctly, capture it cleanly, and you either do that right or wrong.
Yeah.
So that's why
you can be creative in how you capture it.
Sure. But as long as you're, nobody cares.
Yeah. Like when we were shooting with Caroline, it's like, there was a little creative problem solving you have to do on the day. Is like, she's driving in a car and her dog is in the back seat. Like, do we strap a microphone to her, or is that going to start like rubbing? Should we mash it into I think we put it in the...
I put it in the visor.
In the visor, yeah.
And I put one on this shoulder so that when she turned around and talked to
the dog, it still picks up. Yeah. And those are the sort of like on the day challenges you need to figure out based on...
Well, and also what's interesting with location audio is the different types of people that you work with. Somebody like Caroline super professional, works with people, miking her up all the time. Oh, you need to hook it to my bra? Go ahead.
Whatever.
There you go. It's not a big deal. But then you're working with people who aren't professional actors. Sometimes you need to interview like on the street type people. And it's like, okay, I need you to run this up your shirt, please.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
With Caroline, I'm putting it in there, miking it up. It's fine. But with an individual who's not a professional, who hasn't done this, they're like, okay, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's going on?
There's logic to everything we're doing. And there's a reason we do it. But yeah, like with location audio people, they have to get right up in with their subject.
I was doing a commercial once. It was a real person commercial. That's with air quotes there for if you're listening to this.
With Mac.
No. Oh yeah, that guy. Love that guy. Those commercials are brilliant. Sorry, those YouTube videos are brilliant. But this was it was a guy was proposing at the end of the day, and the ring store was featuring this proposal. They were giving them the ring and this whole proposal thing, and this real couple, the girl, she was going through like a spa and then going to a clothing shop and all these things, and I had to mic her up, and she was not an actress, and there was one point where it's like, okay, she's wearing a very low cut dress that she just got, so I've got to mic up this low cut dress, and I went to the back with her, and I think it was the AD, a woman came with, and like on set, on a commercial set, that never happens. Actor, mic, go, who cares? But this was like real person, female miking up. And so it made sense to me when it was happening. But at the same time, when it was over, I was like, that doesn't happen ever. When I'm miking somebody up, I just mic them up.
Well, because a lot of times as well, we're just like, we're doing these run and gun things where it's like we have 30 seconds to mic somebody up and get them ready to go because that's all the time we have. Yeah. Like it's interesting because like I sat down here with Andy last week.
Okay, yeah.
And he was talking about how now with a lot of films and a lot of on-stage stuff, because he does a certain amount of on-stage
theater stuff?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, he did Evil Dead, the musical. Like he toured
I
with
did
them.
know that. Never mind.
And stage combat. That's where he got his like start.
Well, I knew that.
Yeah, in stunts and combat. Okay. But he was talking about intimacy coaches and how that is a growing thing in film and stage content creation.
Yeah.
Because and not just for like females while a dude is like miking them up, but for like stage combat. He's like, that's where I first sort of encountered it, because it's like when you're doing stage combat, you have to get as an actor, like right up next to somebody, and to pull off a certain move, you might need to put your hands on somebody in a way that might make them uncomfortable. So you have an intimacy coach who's sort of mediating all that while it's being developed and making sure that everybody is okay with what you're doing. Yeah. Like, and it was a really like, it was a very cool conversation to get his sort of like insight on that, because he's a huge proponent for it.
Yeah.
Now. Like he's like, that should always be happening. Like
Neat.
Whenever you're doing something where you are putting your hands on somebody else in any capacity, like having somebody there to make sure that just nobody's unintentionally making somebody uncomfortable, right. Or like, because you don't want to, you can also just misconstrue or make somebody uncomfortable unintentionally. Yep. Like, I mean, like you said, you've got to put microphones up women's shirts. Like you're doing it perfectly innocently, but
they might receive it the right way, the wrong way.
Exactly.
And
or it just like might make them not even that they're interpreting what you're doing as intentional by any means, but or like creepy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just might make them uncomfortable. They might have had some experience back in the day or something that
I could not know about.
Exactly. Yeah. That you have no idea. So it's just like it was very cool to, especially because he specifically got into it with stage combat. Like that's where he thinks that like intimacy coaches started, and now they have them on sets for like film scenes with like sex scenes, of course, and stuff like that.
That's when you first said the term. I was like, well, that's what I would assume is for those.
So they do that as well. Like you close the set and you have like an intimacy coach to make sure that nobody's making anybody uncomfortable. You've also you've done funding. You've gotten funding for projects before, a couple times. Yep. So you got the Shazad Bravo Fact funding before it died. You've gotten an Ontario Arts Council grant, which I've tried to get a couple times.
So right after I graduated, it was 2009. A student that I went to school with, he and I applied for Ontario Arts Council, and we got I don't remember how much.
Usually the OAC is like 10 grand for.
I think we got 6.
Yeah,
I think we got $6 grand. Which I mean,
I think it's a max of 10 grand.
Yeah, and it was not. A lot by any means. It was a single day shoot. Yeah, we did a single day shoot. We shot ACTRA, which you want to talk about ACTRA?
We talked about that with Paige last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a single day shoot. And no, it was 2 day. My apologies. 2 day shoot, and everybody got paid. That was my big thing. Everybody's getting paid. Most people got paid $60 a day, which is not much, not at all. But it was still at like, I'm not paying you.
Yeah.
I'm paying you literally every dime I can. And sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm paying you literally every dime I can. And the director and I walked away with zero money out of that one. But everybody else got a
That's
little
usually kind of what happens.
Like and the money is there for the director to create their thing. It's to pay the director to do it. The director doesn't get paid.
No, we can't take payment for our little creative passion projects. It's
not when there's not enough money to pay the other people.
No, like the other people are there to execute your vision. They're the ones who should be getting paid. The director doesn't get shit.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of most indie filmmaking is directors like max out their credit cards to. Well, that's what Farhan was saying on their feature. Like that they got funding for. He's maxed his credit cards out. Like he has had to put a lot of money in himself too, because that's what's
going to happen.
Like 125 grand to make a feature is not a lot, and their film was way more complicated than what we were pitching. We were pitching like one location, like several main characters and a couple extras for a couple scenes.
And I put together the budget, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, we came to over 200,000.
It was 220.
Yeah.
Now that was again paying people properly, including yourself, including myself,
which I fully anticipated to not get.
No. if we had like the more realistic budget, probably would have been more in the 175 range. But even still, we only got 125 if we had gotten it.
Yeah, I would have contributed through the company and everything. Like there would have been some of my money going into this project, because that's how it goes down, especially in the indie film world, because we we're pitching on commercials that have budgets bigger than the
which is so
feature
annoying.
Film. Yeah.
It's so, I mean, it makes sense. Of course it does, because they're trying to sell a product. So of course there's money there to do that, because they're selling that product, and that product has income. But a narrative piece of art is like, to humanity, so much more important than a commercial, than a 30-second commercial. And the fact that a 30-second commercial can literally have a budget in excess of $100,000 almost every time is a little insane.
Yep.
But
it totally makes sense.
Oh, of course it does.
Like,
it's just insane.
You know what? Remember just yesterday, we were sending messages back and forth about those anamorphic drone lenses.
Yes.
Yeah. So that went live, like their Kickstarter went live and had like 35 grand contributed to it or whatever when I clicked on it. And then Peter McKinnon put out a video just basically like saying, these are super cool. It was funded less than 4 hours later at like $130,000 or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the power of advertising is that dude went up, like it was, I'm assuming it was like a sponsored thing from them. Like they paid him 10 grand or whatever to pitch their lenses, and it was funded like in under 4 hours. Like that's and so if you're doing a national campaign, you got to pump money into it, because you're hoping to like $100,000 in a commercial production budget could translate to 10 million in income in sales over 6 months.
Yeah.
Like,
now, I mean, okay, quick diversion here. I know this is not you're not a DOP. I don't get anamorphic lenses. I don't get them. I don't like them. They're too expensive. That's the first thing. They're way too much money. Ramit, our DOP, he wants better lenses, always wants better lenses. I need to be brought into a studio where Rokinon lenses are beside compact primes, are beside master primes, are beside anamorphic lenses. I need to see all of those side by side, and then have him or somebody explain this is this and this is it, to actually like show me why it's worth the money. Because I've watched YouTube videos, I've read like literally when the anamorphic thing, literally yesterday, I was on the Wikipedia page for anamorphic lenses going, like, why are they so important? And I just can't.
It's kind of just how stuff was made back in the day, like with the anamorphic squeeze to get like, that's because of how the film was printed essentially.
Yeah, but like it's still, I don't, if my brain doesn't accept like why it's worth the amount of money to do it. I understand that maybe, but I have to see the side by side.
It's part, I think part of it is a bit of a purist thing too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, because you could shoot a feature film on a Red or an Arri Alexa and shoot digital, which is free, like comparatively, or you could go shoot film.
Yep, which I've done.
Which 90% of audiences are
Won't notice the
not
difference.
going to notice the difference.
Yep.
But it's like you got these Tarantinos and these Nolans and these like more film purists who are like, no, we need to shoot on film because and basically you're doing that for other filmmakers to be like,
Well, I mean, like, so when it comes like film, and maybe this is one of those things that Ramit would, and actually I'm almost guaranteed this is exactly what Ramit would say. With film, even like me, not a film purist who doesn't really care about digital versus film, I can feel the difference on film.
So can I.
Versus digital. I couldn't explain anything beyond I can feel the difference.
It does have a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like I've shot on film on really crappy lenses and I can still feel that difference.
Yeah.
The lenses, I don't know. I need to see. I need Ramit to take me into a studio and show me the differences. This is a massive tangent. And I'm sorry, but I don't understand why anamorphic lenses are so important. Because apparently they are.
They do have a slightly different visual aesthetic. That is,
and they create horizontal lens flares.
Yeah, they create horizontal.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Horizontal lens flares, and the bokeh is more oval or oblong shaped because of the squeeze. Because you gotta stretch it down. So
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Whatever.
As John Oliver would say, cool.
I mean, what they do say that your like glass is the most important part of your cinematography,
and I will agree with that.
Yeah.
Clean, sharp glass is most important. I will not deny that. It's the different like the Rokinons that we shoot with on our low budget stuff. They're beautiful. They're really crisp.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe out on the outside edges, maybe, but that's again, it's a maybe.
But there are little things like it's the little. The diminishing returns is what it comes down to.
Yes.
Is that you spend 10 grand more for a 10% like improvement.
Yeah.
Where if you go from a $100 lens to a $500 lens, that difference is going to be huge.
Yes.
When you go from a $500 lens to a $5,000 lens, it's little tiny differences.
Well,
like,
and I mean,
because like some of the cheaper cine lenses is like there's little green sort of like chromatic aberration when you go at like highlights and low lights or you get like really close contrasting colors.
Sure.
It's shit like that the eagle-eyed cinematographers.
Well, and I mean, like the Tamron lens that this camera here has on it right now, that is a $1,000 lens.
Yeah.
That the comparable version from Sony is triple the price.
Yeah, close to $3,000.
It's almost 3 times the price.
A G Master.
Yeah, and it's not worth $2,000 more.
No.
It's when this is this value. I'm still surprised that the G Master hasn't come down to try to compete with the Tamron.
But again, you got purists. Like you've got these like Sony purists who want Sony stuff, and you got Canon purists who believe in Canon only, or like Ari and Red, and like you've got. It's almost a little cult like sometimes. Like
it can be, it can be,
especially to the the cinematography fetishists.
When you have Ramit on, bring this up as a subject matter for him. Tell him, bring up. So Pronch brought up the fact that he doesn't understand why are lenses important.
Tell Pronch about lenses right now to me,
anamorphic specifically. So
on my podcast here. It's diminishing returns. Jumping from the C300 Mark II to an Ari Alexa. It's just like the highlight roll off and all that sort of.
As a producer, we've had this fight.
Yeah,
you and I, me and Ramit, we've had this fight many times where we've got a $100,000 commercial budget maybe coming up, and you guys want to rent an Ari Alexa.
Yeah,
and I'm going.
Use your C300.
Use the C300. Like I will 100% agree that the A7 III, A7S II to the C300, massive difference in so many ways, and not worth describing here. But C300 to Ari Alexa, nobody, the client is not going to notice. The audience is not going to notice. It's not worth the investment, in my opinion, as a person who is worth the money.
Yeah.
And if you can bring in a slightly lower quote to your client and get more business with your less expensive camera, in my opinion, that's the way to go. But I know that I'll lose these fights. I know I will, because the director and the DOP want the more expensive camera and the more expensive lenses. And it's like, okay, fine.
But so that's interesting that you bring that up, because like it's all competition when it's trying to like lock down these clients and whatnot. But at the same time, you don't want to like lowball people, because if you're lowballing production quotes, you start like a race to the bottom, like where just everybody's rates start coming down, which is what you want for consumer goods. That's what you want for the like average person buying shit for their house. You want prices to come down, you want competition. But with what we're doing, like we're dealing with corporations, and they will try to squeeze as much money as possible out of, like, they'll bleed a stone, right?
Yes and no.
To an extent.
Sometimes they expect and they actually want to spend the money.
Yes.
They want to spend it.
Yeah.
But
what I mean is you don't want to start that race to the bottom where they start expecting cheaper, lower rates.
True. The industry is an expensive industry, and what we do is expect very specialized and very expensive gear and people knowing how to use it. And it's very creative and artistic, and creative and artistic is not something you can quantify.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you think you're worth? So I definitely get why it's expensive, but when an agency takes more than 60% profit, and the cost is only 30% of the project. That's unethically high, in my opinion. It shouldn't be that high, and I think that it makes it makes the industry too expensive. So there's the race to the bottom that we should be worried about, for sure. I definitely agree with that. But you don't want clients to be paying more than they should. Yeah. Because if you can deliver something that you are being paid in a way that you're happy, and like act like you're taking a good profit, you're getting paid, your personal takeaway is a good rate, and you're taking profit to buy more gear or to grow your business or and you have a happy client who paid a little less, that's all good. That's all very good. And just charging industry rates, putting that in air quotes, because that's what they are. I don't think that's the way to go about it. I don't think that's the way the industry should be.
Well, you've got it like that. What you're describing though is like agencies taking huge profits because they're just the agency. Yeah. Like, and their overhead may not actually require the amount of profit they're taking, and they'll try to squeeze their subcontractors as much as possible. Like they'll, try to argue that you should cut your rate in half for them or something, just so that they can pocket that extra difference. Like, so on a project that's, the budget is $100,000. That agency might be taking like $400,000, like from their client. So basically $300,000 is just being absorbed into the agency as profits. Yep. And that's just the end client, like being squeezed kind of.
And but again, that end client is expecting it to cost that much. Yeah. They're expecting it. Yeah. So it's not like, oh geez, this is $1 million. It's like, okay, it's $1 million. Here you go. Yeah. And then they just spend the money and they get what they've expected at the end, and they don't really question it. Yeah. And
I mean, like the agencies have their place, like they have their own overhead and whatnot. They've got staff and presumably buildings to pay for. Sure. But they'll try to, squeeze their production subcontractors quite a bit so that they can just take home more profit. Which, like, I want that profit.
Yeah, I want that profit, and I don't have the same level of overhead. Yeah. But that's also the catch-22. We are really good at what we do. Yeah. And if we're given a proper budget, again, in air quotes, a proper budget, we can do what a massive agency downtown Toronto can. Yeah. But we can't get those clients because we're not a massive agency downtown Toronto. And
it's just like this hierarchy that exists.
If we were, we'd have the higher overheads, and we would have to charge the higher rates, and we'd have to have those the bigger overhead amounts, which would make us not as like, it's just they don't know about the smaller, or they don't trust them because they don't have the same level of clout that a massive agency does or something. And it's just finding that way to get in when you're still small. If you can get in when you're small, then you're set, and you'll have clients for the rest of your life because they'll be getting great rates and they'll be getting great product, but it's that getting in that we need to figure out how to do that.
You, me, Ramit, and a few other people like regularly collaborate. Yeah. We hire each other when there's client work. We work for free for each other if it's, fun, creative stuff. Yeah. And we have the time. And between a lot of us, we have a full production company's worth of gear that we have collectively invested in.
I put together a spreadsheet for us about 6 months ago, and we have over $100,000 worth of gear between us.
It used to be, if you wanted to shoot video for a client, if you wanted it to look good, you needed a lot of high-end gear, like back in early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
That's kind of one thing that I try to promote to people, despite the fact that I've spent a lot of money. try to promote not spending excessive amounts of money on gear. What we've kind of figured out is, because we have all collectively invested in certain amounts of gear, we've got this setup now where essentially if I need to borrow something from you that doesn't have a client, like, we're willing to just lend shit to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. The A7 III is right there.
Yeah, that's your camera. And it has been for most of these podcasts.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like a better approach, to find other people that are like basically spread the expenses out, because it's so, all this stuff is so expensive.
It is.
Is that the way that maybe the smaller scale, like filmmaker, like content producer is kind of going? Because nowadays, I mean, people can start a business and start locking down clients for way less startup money.
They can.
Like, did you feel that too when you had, I mean, you were collecting your own gear and doing your own side projects and stuff while you were still employed?
That's right. And that's why I was able to.
Yeah.
100% of the profit, again, in air quotes, that I took from all of my freelance projects while I was employed, I didn't pay myself from those jobs at all, because I had a regular income. So every dime I earned from that went into buying gear. And it set me up. We had probably spent $5,000 to $10,000 over the course of a couple of years buying cameras, buying audio gear, this and that, because we didn't need to take the pay. Both by myself and my business partner, we had full-time jobs. So whatever freelance gigs we got, we done on weekends, we did in the evenings, and we bought gear with it. But yeah, the cost of entry has come way down. And not that I would ever advocate that you should do this, but you can shoot a commercial on your iPhone.
Yes.
You can. As long as, like, audio is the most important thing to get right for a YouTube video. If you record a semi-acceptably visual stable shot on your cell phone, then but you have good audio, clean, like well mic'd or whatever, and there's no massive background noise, or it doesn't sound like you're really far away, then your audience will watch it and they will accept, there's, cheap creation. Who cares? It's when there's bad audio that the audience member can't listen to it.
Yeah. I told Taylor that too, that I consider audio more important than video in 99% of the projects that we work on. I'm like, an audience will accept a light or a C-stand or cables in the background of a shot for far longer than they will accept, like, in the background,
or roomy audio.
Yeah,
like when the person's really far away. Like yesterday, when I was on set with Sanam, they were shooting Instagram stories on an iPhone. In a very loud space. And they didn't have them mic'd, and they were just sending them out, and I was like, you can't do that.
But they do.
But like, to your question though, the cost of entry is coming down, and what it's more than anything is about good client relationships, making sure you're delivering what the client wants and that you're not bullshitting. You're not overselling your skill set. The way to get into this industry, the way to get into doing what we do, is to make mistakes and to not charge a lot of money when you're making mistakes. As you get better and better and better, you become worth more and more and more. But yeah, the cost of entry is coming down, and this gear is less and less expensive. And the only reason that we have $15,000 cameras, because we're working on broadcast stuff now, and we're doing stuff.
And it took us several years to pull the trigger on this guy.
And when you did it, it was still like, you were excited, but you were also very nervous.
The
you didn't like, how much of it did you have paid off in advance? So like when you had a down payment versus
we just bought that straight up.
Yes, you did, but you used your own money to buy it. So it's not like you bought it on credit card.
No.
But you didn't have an equipment budget that was, God damn it, sorry about that. You didn't have an equipment budget that was for like, okay, this money is now to buy the camera. So you took money that you would have taken as pay to buy the camera. Did you have any set aside as like, this is equipment money?
Yes. I mean, both, because me and Ram had split it. And that was we'd both been putting money just aside for it, but we were waiting until a project was going to come up that could at least, that we knew we'd be using it for multiple days on.
Right.
Which was this Tim Hortons project that we got that was several days of production. And it was like, at least then using this project that we know we're hired for, and the budget that I sent in and the quote was approved and whatever. That'll at least take like the kit fees for it. We'll at least put a dent into what we're putting up front. Now we'd set aside, each of us had set aside that cash, and we had enough to buy it earlier.
Yeah.
But it was just like, we don't have something that we know we're gonna use it on. So in the meantime, we'll, like, if we have a one-off shoot, we'll shoot it with smaller cameras and just whatever. But yeah, it took us like 5 years almost of doing other projects before we were like, yeah, this is the time to actually invest in a high end or mid-range like cinema camera of sorts. And again, we didn't, we could have dumped way more money in and bought a Red or a Arri Alexa, but the diminishing returns.
Yep, they're bringing it back.
Yeah, the cost of entry is considerably lower. And I mean, like, now you just recently invested in a whole bunch of like broadcast kit. Yeah, and
diminishing returns to the max. Yeah, so prosumer, you're going to buy your Sennheiser G2s, G3s. That's the the wireless audio units you're going to get. They are great. They are $600 a pair, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things like that. It's expensive when you're getting started and you've got no money at all. But if you're shooting on your iPhone, get yourself a pair of wireless G3s before buying a camera, because clean audio, like we talked earlier. Yeah, the difference between those are basically the best you can get until you're hitting the industry standard. Yeah. Once you hit the industry standard, you're using what are called Electrosonics. That's the name brand. And they're stupid expensive. They're stupid. The only reason I decided I needed to upgrade was because of the amount of broadcast stuff we were doing that had greater range. Yeah. We were doing some projects, actually that Dion FNUF one out in PEI. There was one time I had mic'd him up with a Sennheiser unit, and he was out playing on the street with some kids.
Oh wait, I wasn't there for that. That was.
Oh, you weren't there for that. Okay, but either way,
you guys went out like a week later and shot with him again.
Shot him again. Yeah. Yes. So he's out playing street hockey with some kids, and I had mic'd him up with a Sennheiser unit. He was not 50 feet from me, not even 50 feet, and I'm holding the unit. I've got my bag on, and I'm holding the unit out from my body, pointing it at him as he's moving around to try to get a clean signal, because every song.
Yeah, you'd lose that.
And that's unacceptable in a broadcast situation. You need to be able to get it. And he's
especially
far away.
With like these, not just broadcast stuff, but like with sports content. Because Josh Laszlo came out here and we sat down and talked. And he does all the stuff with the Maple Leafs. Yeah. And he's like, you need to be ready. Yeah. Like you can't, there's almost no margin for error or for delays when you're working with professional athletes, because their time is very expensive. And it's like they got hard ins and outs, and it's like, you got to be, we've done it before where we're like sitting there ready to shoot the interview or something
when they walk in.
So that they walk in, they sit down, they put the mic on, and we go. Like, you don't have time to like, hey, do you mind just sitting here for 20 minutes while we tweak lighting and stuff? It just does not happen.
So yeah, I ultimately just within the last year decided to buy 2 Electrosonic transmitters and a dual receiver. They're super small. They're super rugged. They're like, you could drop them off the CN Tower. They'd be fine. They're really, really great. But all in, 2 transmitters and a dual receiver was $8,000. Yeah. Which is insane.
Yeah, 10, 12 times more expensive than a pair of Sennheisers.
A pair of Sennheisers will cost you $1,200. Yeah. And this was over $8,000, and that didn't include microphones. I had the place that I bought it from re-terminate my microphones that I already had, the little wires, to work on Electrosonics, because I couldn't afford anything else. And you've had Taylor on the show already, right? Yeah. So immediately after buying them, I was like, okay, I'm using electros on this one. Yeah. Taylor told me that he used only the boom on that particular shoot, because my boom was great. It was clean. Why use anything else? I'm like, because
Taylor's a boom advocate. It's like, if the boom is better, go with the boom.
And I'll agree with him. It sounded better, but I wanted him to use my electros because I just spent so much money on them.
Yeah, they're good. They're good insurance.
Yes, and that's the thing. They're when you're in an interview situation, when you're in a controlled setting, you have the boom perfectly placed right out of frame. Yeah. Of course the boom's going to get used. Of course it is. The run and gun style where I had like Dion playing street hockey, the boom isn't involved there.
Yeah, so you can't unless you're running around after them.
And even then, they don't want you to, because they're playing street hockey. So in that situation, the electros will be better. Yeah. And I have had 1 or 2 situations like that. The range is significantly farther, and they do actually sound better. Yeah. They do. The wire's exactly the same, but I remember when I first turned them on, I was still in the store and I was setting it up, and I wanted to stay in the store in case I didn't get something, and I wanted the people to help me with it. So I was still in the store. I turned it all on and I couldn't hear anything. When you turn on the Sennheisers and you plug them to your audio recorder, you can always hear
Yeah.
just a little
hiss.
tiny hiss that is barely there. And when you're actually editing with it, you put some music on it, it's gone.
Yeah.
You cannot hear it at all. And if you know
And
anything about
any
audio
sound
work,
mixer is going to denoise
it's
it
gone.
anyway. Yeah.
It's just gone. But I turned everything on and I didn't hear that hiss. And I'm thinking, where's the hiss? And I actually said it loud, is it on? And I had my headphones on and I was like,
Blow your brains out.
Oh my gosh, it is on. I can hear it. And so that hiss was not there. And it's because it's a digital and analog transmission, whereas the Sennheisers is just an analog transmission. And because of that, RF interference, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So like they are better. They are. But I don't think that they're $8,000. Sorry, $7,000 better. I don't think that.
Diminishing returns, man. Although I wasn't talking about that when I brought this up. I was
Oh,
talking
sorry.
about your air pack and stuff.
Oh,
That's what I was getting at. But
yes.
you know, we got a bit more tech jargon out of the way.
Sorry. Yes, I did just buy an air pack, and I'm very, very, very excited about it.
Yeah.
That particular
What is
one,
an air pack?
Okay.
Do you know what an air pack is?
No.
See, that's
Okay.
right.
All right. So an air pack is something that when I was employed previously, I had built a really tiny itty bitty air pack, and I was so proud of it. An air pack is a multi-camera switching unit. So you can plug in multiple cameras, switch live, stream it out, record it, add video playback.
It's basically a live broadcast.
It's a control room.
Control room that is
can move.
portable.
Yeah. So I had built one of these 5 years ago, and it was owned and owned by the company I worked for. Then when I left, didn't have access to it anymore, and always kind of wanted one. Not that I had business that warranted it.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of live streaming things where I just rent the stuff downtown Toronto. There's a place that rents them. And I've always wanted to build another one, and I just got a massive project that warranted me building my own.
Yeah.
And so I spent $20,000 on building my own air pack, and I'm very happy with it. It's so great.
But so that's like the kind of you got a client and a project that justified a like $20,000 expense. You're still in the red on that.
I will be on the red. Hopefully, come October, I will be down only $500.
Yeah.
But yeah, the project itself, I had to spend an additional $9,000 beyond the budget of the
Land. Yeah.
I knew when and if I was going to get the project, I was expecting to spend about $5,000 more than I was going to receive, because I needed to build this thing.
Yeah.
If I had decided to rent everything from Toronto, I would have made 10 grand in profit, probably. But I wanted to buy. So I had planned on being down about 5, and at the end of the day after the project, I'm down about 9. So if I get hired by that same client again come this October, I will only be down about $500-600.
Yeah.
Which is basically.
But then after that,
Everything's profit.
down $500 is basically netting zero on
Yeah.
something, especially if you do it in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
Like that's a quick return on investment to at least recoup the losses. But yeah, then after that you own it. So any client that comes to you, the 5 to 10 grand rental fees that you usually would have to do could just go straight in your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the plan.
Yeah. And that's like something people need to keep in mind when they're buying gear is to charge for it.
Yes.
Like and I feel like that's something a lot of people don't think about when they even if you're bringing
I didn't
out.
used to.
Yeah, even if you're bringing out a little mirrorless camera, charge a kit fee for it.
Yeah.
Charge $100. Like look up what it costs to rent it.
That's right.
And then drop it by like
80% of the price.
Yeah.
Drop it by only 20%. And like that's what I still do.
Yeah.
When I first entered the industry, when I first graduated and was doing freelance stuff, my day rate was a fraction of what it is now.
Yeah.
And I didn't charge for any equipment. I owned equipment and I brought it out, but it didn't dawn on me that this has a value that needs to be paid for by the client because I'm bringing it out. If it wasn't for the thing that I'm creating wouldn't be able to happen. And they're not just paying for me to come out, they're paying for me and my gear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that took me a little bit to wrap my head around, and I obviously am now. But yeah, I go to the Vistech website. They've got a rental area. Go there, search up exactly what you've got.
Yeah.
They've got a rate. 80% of that's what you charge the client.
That way it's like, look, yeah, it's cheaper if you go with me because my kit fees are a little bit cheaper than it would be to rent. It's negligible to the end client. They generally don't give a shit about saving $20 on a kit fee.
Yeah.
But it's just like overall, it's like, no, I'm doing 10 days with you and here's my kit. And it would cost you more. Like those 10 days would cost you considerably more once you add up all the little discounts, but it's just all money back into my pocket.
That's right. And you also there's also the possibility of just renting your equipment.
Yeah.
That's also a thing you can do. I mean, like obviously when we have a paid client, you, myself, Ramit, we will rent gear from each other when we're not hiring each other.
That's when we lend it to each other for stuff where there's no actual paycheck and we're just fucking around or having fun or shooting something creative. But if you're got a client that's paying you and you need some of my gear, then I'll charge you for it.
Well, and for example, that massive project where I bought the AirPack, I needed your wireless transmitter.
Yep.
And I needed 2 wireless transmitters. I rented one from Toronto for $200.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I need a second one.
Yeah.
The company I'm renting from doesn't have one. I'd rather give you $200
extra bucks than find somebody else. Or
So that's what I did. I rented it from you for $200. And you were very, very kind and said, I know you're down $9,000. Do you want to not charge me for it? I was like, no, I would have had to pay it anyways. I would have. So I rented it from you. And my spreadsheets, I had it allocated to be down that much money. So it was fine. But yeah, there's also like, there's the Shuttershare website that we're both on. And it's still always a little nerve wracking renting something out to somebody who you've never met before. But
that's why I use Shuttershare, but that's not on it. My A7S I don't put on. I put my Rokinon lenses because like those, as far as those have been paid off for years already. Like I put my breakables down where it's like, I might make $30. Like, but I don't put the stuff I depend on.
And I have I've put my A7 III on there.
You've got a couple of your things up there.
And it is nerve, and I have rented them out. I've rented my A7 III and my Ronin S and my Tamron lens, which all together is $2.5, $3.5, $4.5. It's $4,000 in one little rental that I rent out for $160. Which that's a steal, an absolute steal. And I've rented out about 3 times. And every time I hand it off to somebody I haven't met before, but the people are generally super courteous, very grateful to be getting it for such an amazing rate. And not having to drive into Toronto. They're meeting me in Oakville because they live in Oakville or they live in Mississauga.
And they have to pay a little bit of a damage insurance fee to Shuttershare to get it. But it's still like, if it comes back fucking shattered.
You're protected from that.
Protected. I don't know how protected.
Well, we haven't had to go through it yet. We haven't had to go through it.
But I've seen some things online where someone gave ID. I don't know if we're on a couple of Facebook groups. There was someone who rented their stuff out because the guy gave them ID and put a deposit down and everything. And it turned out afterwards that the ID was faked and the guy vanished.
I saw that post.
So, and I think they rented him $100,000 worth of gear.
He rented him a C300. And there was lenses and there was recorders. And there was a lot of gear.
And he just ghosted and his ID was faked. And it's, it
wasn't faked. It was old.
Was it old?
It was old, yeah.
I thought the signature was faked on it too.
So what I remember reading, maybe there was more than one post. What I remember reading was that he went to the address on the driver's license that he had an image of, and when he got there, the person's like, he used to live here, but he doesn't live here anymore.
Maybe I'm looking at a different one.
Oh, geez, that's not good. More than one. In
scary stories. Toronto rental scene. But see, that's why I don't put up. My big stuff.
And
something I only put up stuff that I feel like I could afford to replace if it absolutely came down to it and that I don't depend on. But if you've got a trusted network of people you work with that you would rent your gear to, those are generally, because your buddies and other collaborators and stuff are not going to fuck with your shit. And
if something breaks, they're going to tell you.
Exactly. They're going to take care of it. Well, you hope so, at least. Putting a little bit of trust in their hands. With running your own business. You've got it. You're kind of operating as your own accountant for the most part, like your own bookkeeper. You are managing clients and managing their expectations. Sales. You're overseeing sales. Yeah, exactly. There's so many parts to it that a lot of people don't realize goes into running a business or being a freelancer. Because if you're a freelancer, even if you're not incorporated, you're running your own business. It's a company.
100%.
And when it comes to charging rates, you have to be paying yourself for all that extra time.
That's right.
Because if you look at somebody who's got a salary of $60,000 a year. That's their full-time rate, but they've got like benefits and they've got
CPP,
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And like they're not using their own equipment and their own gear that might need to be replaced to do that job.
Yeah.
When you went freelance, having spent so much time as an employee to now having to pay for all this out of a day rate or whatever your project rates were.
Yeah.
Like, was that at all shocking? Because I mean, you were doing stuff for a smaller scale production company that was generally hiring students, and you weren't hiring industry professionals and whatnot for these kinds of clients. Because like, you know, some of the projects, some of the bigger commercial projects, some rates for individuals can run up thousands of plus dollars for a day.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that like an adjustment for you?
It absolutely was, and actually to really drive that home, when you worked for me and when you were a non-industry professional,
a student,
sure, when you were a student, one of the last things I did on your last day working for me over a summer was I came in and I had a bit of a presentation about your value and pricing yourself and making sure that you were getting good value for your time, and explaining that minimum wage is not acceptable. Minimum wage is the legally smallest amount of money that a company can give you, and if that's what they're giving you, they don't value you. And I remember telling some people that I was giving this speech to my students at the end of every year, and they were like, "Oh, you got to be careful with that because some people are really crap." I was like, "Yeah, but I don't hire crap. Like I'm working with people who actually are more valuable than minimum wage, and I didn't pay minimum wage there. We paid like again, it wasn't much more,
wage,
but it wasn't minimum wage. It was more than the legally minimum that I could because it was what I was allowed to.
You had people that you had to get approvals on for what you were paying. Employees. But.
So for that entire period where I was employed and I was hiring students and things like that, I was paying slightly more than minimum wage, and I had a salary, so I didn't have to think about how much things actually costed in the real world. Then I was out on my own, running my own business, and there was actually a couple of times I contacted you, and I asked, is this a fair quote? Do you think that in the real world this is a fair quote?
Because I'd been like self-employed entirely for about 2 years at that point.
Yeah. And so you were working in the real world. You were seeing what actual rates were. And I had student rates in my head. And it took me a while to get my head wrapped around that. I knew what I needed to pay myself. And that was only one piece of the puzzle. I wasn't even charging enough for my own time. But I was thinking of a camera operator being, $200 for a day, which is that's not acceptable in the real world.
To just contextualize that, what most of the stuff the company you were working for was doing was like internally based advertising aspects of that specific company. And so it was not like, and a lot of stuff was just internal. It was not being seen beyond people within that company. It wasn't going to broadcast. Occasionally we'd have external clients with like slightly bigger budgets and projects, but those budgets went towards the actual like hard external costs, not towards labor.
That's right.
And so just to like but contextualize why it was like student rates, because we were all students and the projects were very low.
Internal.
Yeah.
They're internal. And everybody understands internal is a different budget than external.
Although there are some companies that specialize in internal product launch videos and charge hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Very much so.
But
yeah, so figuring that out was a bit of an adjustment period. But the idea of running my own business and the other parts that went into it, that was something that I was already doing. The department that I was running, where I was hiring these students, was a small business within a big business. So I had to track expenses. I had to track income. I had to make sure that the paperwork's properly filed and all that stuff. So I already had a good handle on that, and I had different tips and tricks for how to do that. And actually, that's one of the things that I had in my final day pitch to you guys is like, this is how I recommend you do things. So moving out on my own, it was pretty easy to transition to running my own business. The only real difficult thing was understanding actual industry rates and what's fair. And the biggest thing to think about when you're starting out as a freelancer, this or that is what should I charge? What should I charge? The answer is, what do you need to get through the amount of time you're going to spend on this project? When you're first starting out, you need to realize that the paycheck that you're getting right now is not just for this one day. It's for the whole month, or it's for the whole week until your next paycheck.
Yeah.
And if you're only going to charge $250 a day, which is what, when I first graduated, that's what I charged for me to go out for a day. That's an acceptable amount of money for today.
Yeah.
For just today. But am I on set again tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Probably not.
Easy to actually end up with like a 6-figure income doing this stuff. If you are a dependent, you lock down clients who need you consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was starting out for an editing project, for example, even if it only took me a day, I would charge the amount of money that I would need for a week.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was $500.
Yeah.
I would charge $500 for an edit, even if it only took me half a day or a day, because as a 20-year-old, I needed to pay rent, and so like, how much money do I need?
Didn't you own a house at 20?
Okay, good point. I did. I'm weird.
Yeah.
I needed to pay my expenses.
Yeah.
So I need to make so much money, $2,000 in a month. I'm not going to have 4 editing projects this month, but let's just assume 1 week, $500. And that was a good way to get started. You need to think about how much money do you need to get through the month, and when's your next project coming in, or how far away do you think it'll be before you have your next project?
Yeah.
And your day rate is not just to pay you for today. It's to pay you for the days you're not working as well.
And that's, because when I first started freelancing, like I graduated school, at this point, my experience was in the industry working for you for a few bucks more than minimum wage, which back then would have been,
I think you were making 13 or 14 bucks an hour.
Yeah, and it was like $10.75 or $11 an hour. Now in Ontario, it's $14 an hour is minimum wage. So now would have been making probably less than minimum wage
at this time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the first client I ever locked down, I was doing editing for on an hourly basis, and they offered me a rate, and I just took it, and that was $25 an hour. Right. And I thought, this is fucking sick. And it wasn't. It was not enough. And because we go through feast and famine. We have points where we're busy as shit, and we've got like, you could have a month where it's like easy. You're working every day. You end up with like $15,000 in a month, and then the next month you don't do shit.
Yep.
You don't work at all. You make like $500 or like $2,000 or whatever. So you've got to offset those famine periods by budgeting the money you make during your big feast months. Because a lot of people will, they end up with a sudden windfall of cash that they weren't expecting necessarily, and then they blow it.
Yep.
And I mean, we have expenses to keep our businesses going, which is fine. Like, that's what goes in. You got to buy new gear. You might have repairs. Your computer shits the bed. You got to buy a new computer, whatever.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to budget your money to last you those slow periods, because you are not guaranteed anything.
Clients could just disappear.
Yeah, that's why I've like structured myself to at least cover a good chunk of time if a client vanishes.
Yeah.
At least if you're employed, if they let you go or they downsize or whatever, not fired for cause, but we're downsizing, we need to save money, you're going to get like a severance package for at least a little bit, depending on how long you've been there or whatever their policy is.
And you'll have EI.
And you'll have employment insurance where, a client could straight up just not call you. They're just, we don't need you anymore. Like, that's it. And they don't owe you anything.
Yeah. It could be because you did crap work for them. Yep. It could be because they don't need you anymore.
Or it could be something even more out of your control, in that your contact at that company could get let go.
Yep.
So by extension, you kind of got fired with them or terminated with them, but you don't get any employment insurance or severance packages or anything. So it's not uncommon, I think, for, a subcontractor for doing production work or whatever for an agency to be actually making more than their contact.
Yes.
Like, because their contact is salaried, they get benefits, they get whatever.
Yeah.
Generally, you're making less potentially per year as a salaried employee, but there's more benefits.
Yeah.
I don't remember who I was speaking to, but they said, because they had sort of the numbers broken down roughly. It's like, for a company to employ somebody is generally costs the company like 2 to 3 times what the actual salary is.
Right.
Like, so if it's an $100,000 salary, the company is actually paying $200,000 to $300,000 per year in like various RSP contributions or benefits and taxes, CPP, EI, like all these things get paid by the company. So it might seem like on paper a subcontractor is making an exorbitant amount of money, but the company is actually paying less than they would for an employee. And that's what, you know, the key is to keep your expenses down as little as possible. Like try to make as a freelancer, try to make your monthly expenses in less than a week. Yeah. And that's like, and then that way, if you work beyond that week, you are making profit. Yeah. You've got 4 months paid for in a month, like if not more, if you can.
Which again, like you're saying, you go in highs and lows. Last year, January to May, was basically unemployed. Yeah. This year, January to May, I didn't have a second to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can change. I had weird, busy January, February as well.
This year was nuts for the entire industry.
Yeah.
All freelancers, all small business, like it's weird. But now, since June, I've been really slow.
Yeah.
And
usually the summer's pretty busy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that like this year is almost inverted from last year. I'm hoping that the fall picks back up.
Yeah.
That we have the same level that we had January to May that we usually have in the summer.
Because I don't have much. I've got one ongoing project going on right now.
And
that's
same
it.
here.
Yeah.
I don't beyond that project.
It's going to be fine for me for the summer, but it's less than what the summer was pulling in for me last year.
Exactly. Which is really, really strange. Yeah. But that's the life of a freelancer. That's the life of running your own business and small.
Yeah, because you basically have, even if you're just an independent freelancer with no employees, no office space, nothing, you are a business and you got to treat yourself like that. Companies downtown Toronto didn't manage to get like an office building in the heart of downtown charging their clients minimum wage. Yeah. We need to focus on getting as much income for you as possible to bank for the future or for future growth or further investment, because you think lawyers and stuff, they charge sometimes hundreds of dollars per hour, right? Like same thing with, major color correction, commercial color correction studios, $900 an hour for color correction.
Yeah. And that's not the person. That's the space. That's everything. Because
you're working in a $1 million facility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You could get similar results. Again, it becomes diminishing returns. I could color correct something for, I don't charge $900 an hour.
You don't?
No, I wish I could.
Wow.
I could get similar results, but if you pay that $900 an hour, you're getting exactly what you want.
In a very, very quick time period. The people are really quite good.
Yeah.
Your feature length movie, that's going to take a while, but your 30-second commercial, you're going to be in there for maybe an hour.
An hour.
And so it's $900 an hour.
Too, if you're being picky with stuff.
But that's the thing, like they're that good that they're actually that fast.
And that's where I'm an advocate for not charging hourly rates as a freelancer.
Yeah.
Half day, maybe.
Yeah.
If you're doing your client a favor, I would say regardless charge a day rate.
Well, yeah, because
you can't really take anything else
that's off. Right. You've penciled in this day, even if you're only gonna be there for 4 hours, you can't line anything else up on that day. Like maybe if it's in the evening.
But even then it's like, I could be scheduled till noon, but something could happen that then I'm stuck there till 3 or 4. Yep. It's like,
so your day is booked regardless of half day or length.
So again, it depends on the client. There's like some clients that, if you work for regularly and they need a bone on this project, sure, do it. But that's where these agencies downtown, color correction studios, they charge hourly because they're charging so much hourly and they know they can get the job done in that 2-hour time period. But I'm a huge advocate for just day rates. And then if you do manage to squeeze 2 projects in or 2 shoots in one day or whatever, you're making 2 days worth of money in one day.
Which Raman and I actually did that once.
Yeah.
We were driving to Montreal and from Oakville, Mississauga area, we were driving to Montreal. Yeah. From the Oakville, Mississauga area, we had to drive all the way through Toronto, past Ajax, Pickering, all them. I had a 3-hour shoot lined up in the Scarborough area. And I said, we can come. They needed on this day. Needed to be on this day. And I said, well, I cannot do it after noon. Can't. But could do it pre-noon. And we have to be out by noon 30. Yeah. Absolutely. And so Ramit and I, we booked a shoot day that day on a day that we were being paid to travel. So we got
That's another thing. Billing your clients for travel days.
Travel days are good.
You can't work that day. You've got to bill them. You can. I generally work out a discounted day rate,
of course,
because I'm not actually working for them, but
I'm not able to
take other work on.
Yeah,
I got to get paid for this.
Yeah. So he and we charged a full day rate to that client for the half day. And then we were also getting paid travel day rate, which was great. That was a fantastic day for the two of us. Yeah. But I don't remember where I was going with that. But yes.
You can work 2 days for a client and make 2 days worth in one day.
If you're lucky and if you schedule it right.
And you can't do that if you're if you're charging hourly.
Yeah.
You're bound to your hours. Although I did do that too when I was working for you back in the day, because I was also because we did full-time work for you.
Yes.
But during the school year and stuff, if we could also take on freelance type stuff where it's like, we have a project and do you want to edit it? And I was also employed by the college, and I'd bring my laptop, and I was monitoring the other TV studio classes to make sure the first years didn't destroy cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd work for you while I was working for them. And make more money.
Yeah. Of course you did. Of course you did.
And you don't care.
No, not at all. And that's the thing. The type of boss I was and the type of person I am now, even, I'm a deliverables based person. I do not care if you check in at 9 and you check out at 5. It's, are you getting the thing done?
Yeah.
And if when you were working for me, it was a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I wasn't working in the same space as you. No. You guys had your office across.
Yeah, we took naps.
Yeah. Which again, I didn't know about until last year, but I don't care. And I wouldn't have cared then, because as long as when I asked you to do something, that thing got done quickly.
Yeah.
And that's the type of industry I like working in, is deliverables based. And I don't think that really any institution, business, anything, you shouldn't be assuming and expecting your employee to be there 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. because that's not the mark of their value.
No.
The mark of their value is, what are they doing for the company and what are they delivering to you? So if you give them deliverables that are reasonable and the timelines that you give them are reasonable, you shouldn't care if they arrive 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late. As long as what you ask them to get done gets done, then you're good to go.
Or if you have a hard deadline, as long as they beat the deadline.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all that should matter.
And that it's good.
Yeah.
But I'm not just a proponent for day rates. I do with a lot of my editing work, I'm deliverable based.
Yes.
That's what the rate is. So if I can blast something out really quickly and the client approves it, it's solid, making more money.
Yeah.
But I do that within reason, because I give X amount of revisions. I will get you this, you get this many revisions, stick to it.
Yeah.
Again, depending on the client.
Yes.
If I like the client or they're consistent, then I might waive that to an extent. If it starts getting really ridiculous, where it's we're on the 9th revision because your client is being a dick,
come on,
I want more money.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time they agree, because they're not, it's not coming out of their pocket.
They realize also we have asked more than we should have.
Yeah, exactly. It's not all creative fun. When you're a filmmaker or a freelance, there is business to it. There's accounting, there's tracking expenses. I probably spend an hour or so a day just going through accounting stuff, and figuring out numbers,
your invoice,
budgeting shit. Sometimes you budget and quote stuff that does not get approved, and you just you have to spend 2 hours building a budget that nobody's paying for. You got to pay yourself for that. It's not all fun and games as much as we'd like it to be. It's not all just going out and playing with cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
It's client relations. It's keeping people happy. It's doing numbers and Excel spreadsheets, which you find fun.
Yeah, I love Excel.
I know you do.
I love it. I have a phone. So yeah, funny story. Yesterday, I had a phone call scheduled with an agency in Toronto that I work with, and the person was going to call me. They wanted me to help with building an Excel spreadsheet, and she had reached out to me and said, you're pretty good at Excel, right? You built this thing for us a month ago, so you're pretty good at Excel. And I said, yeah, I absolutely love making formulas and different sheets and having numbers appear over there that you wouldn't have expected to. And then about a minute, this is all through text. About a minute later, I said, "That's the definition of nerd, isn't it?" She said, "Absolutely, it's the definition of nerd." So, I'm helping them figure out a way to track their finances in a better way. And Excel is so powerful. Yeah. It's so cool. And I mean, I love Excel.
We get excited about Da Vinci. Look at the color correction. Pronch is fucking Excel, man.
It's so good. I remember in grade 10, we had to you don't learn much about personal finance and stuff like that in high school. You really don't. But we did have to make the co-op student over here is like, no, we don't. It's very, very valuable. You need to learn what you can while you're in high school, and they don't teach it. But I remember there was one assignment we had in the business class where we had Excel, and we had to make a mortgage breakdown, something that automatically you put in the value of the mortgage, how long it was, and then on the next page, all of the payments would show up. Yeah. And I remember fighting with that for like an hour because, again, I'm 14, 15 years old, but I finally got it. And it was the coolest thing that the formula I wrote over there made things happen over here. Whoa! And ever since then, I've just been in love with Excel.
It's been a love affair with Excel
so
since grade 10.
It's so powerful.
Now you're 30.
30. I'm 30.
Yeah. 30 and still Excel is your second love.
It's so good. It's so good. The things you can do. And I mean, when I'm making a list of anything, it's in Excel.
I know. I've gotten them before.
Always in Excel. Call sheets, Excel. Why do people build call sheets in Word? It makes no sense. You can actually have things like, if I change this here, it changes it down here. Why? People building things in Word. Word is useless.
Excel's
My wife is an editor by training, so she actually loves. Sorry, not different term here. She's an editor of literary editor. Yeah. So she loves Word. Word is her favorite, but she also appreciates the power of Excel. She's not as much of an Excel nerd as I am.
I like to picture this starts like really contentious debates between you guys.
Which
sometimes.
One's better?
Like, it's like you're like trying to put Henry to bed or something, and you're just fucking fighting over Excel versus Word.
Well, she actually taught me something in Word that has actually changed my relationship with Word. You can use headings just like you would in building a website, like H2,
you and I
H3.
talked about this. Yeah.
So when you're making a document in Word or Google Docs, you can tag different things as heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and you can create formats for those. So nerdy. Yeah. You can create formats for those. So when if you don't like the fonts that you've chosen throughout the document, but you don't want to you can't Command A and change everything because you want your headers to be a different you can change just what the header styling is. And it makes things so powerful. You can change everything in one click. So good.
You are so much more passionate about this shit than anything else we've talked about so far.
It's because it's so powerful. I'm such a nerd. I'm sorry.
But no, that's okay. Anywho, we've been at this for an hour and 49 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeepers.
According to my recorder.
Yeah, I have to go empty out a storage unit this afternoon.
Oh, the old one?
Yeah. So I've had a storage unit in Milton that's been way too far away. We're moving to Oakville now. So we've rented a truck for the afternoon and
so you might want to go do that.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me. If you want to do it again, I feel like
we'll do it again.
We can talk.
We could talk for a long time.
Ever. So yes, thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
Have yourself a great day.
All right.
And we'll cut it there.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the J-Cut Podcast with Pronch Murphy. We've got more episodes on the way with other interesting people in the creative business. Make sure you subscribe, share, and like these videos for more. That would really be solid of you and help us build this channel even further. On our next episode, I sit down and talk music with the extremely handsome and very talented R&B singer, Del Hartley.
It's good to even put yourself in those situations, man, to fail and for things to kind of mess up so you kind of know and you can kind of plan because you know, you being in production, you know nothing ever goes 100% according to plan. Ever.